everybody told me about GMAT exam, and I was pretty confident in myself. So I was seeing these videos, I was seeing the blogs, and you get to see videos where people say that GMAT done in one attempt, 1 month study, scored a 700, 720. And I thought I would be one of those people who would, get it right off the bat. So when I scored a 640, I couldn't make peace with it. I had multiple factors that was, playing into account at that time. COVID was happening, work was piling on.
Yeah.
Even though I was giving the time and the effort for e-GMAT, I wasn't using strategy. I wasn't using the right strategy. That is something that you see quite often when you read blogs or when you listen to stories. Strategy is the word that is emphasized. And I took that for granted.
Yeah. Welcome, Punith, to this new and interesting debrief session. So your story is very, very interesting to me because you started off with the V26 and you're sitting with the V40 today. So big deal. Kudos to you. But you've also taken the test 3 times, from 640 to 610 and then a 720. It's a very, very interesting journey. Let's talk about how you began studying for the GMAT. That's very, very important.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. My GMAT journey, I think, began in the year, around 2019 is when I was going back and forth with the idea of doing MBA. I started off, with a few mentors. They were just giving me inputs about how MBA is, how GMAT is and all stuff. And then it all started there. 2020 is when I actually started my journey.
Yeah.
So back then, I made a switch from corporate to a startup, and then things were happening well, and then COVID happened. COVID struck, and then I had to move back to my house in OT. So this happened, and I was kind of wondering what it is I should do next. And then I realized that if I don't do my GMAT right now, I don't see when there's gonna be a better chance for me to do it. So 2020 is when my preparation started. So I started off with the OGs. I figured out that OGs might help me. The thing was, everybody told me about GMAT exam, and I was pretty confident in myself. So I was seeing these videos, I was seeing the blogs, and you get to see videos where people say that GMAT done in one attempt, 1 month study, scored a 700, 720. And I thought I would be one of those people who would, get it right off the bat. So I thought OGs might help me. And that's when I started my preparations. I think it was somewhere around the mid-April, March, April is where I started my preparations, and I was using my OGs. And then I figured out that I was going nowhere in my preparations. I for instance, critical reasoning, I started off with critical reasoning and I was solving the questions. The difficult ones, I was getting it right, but then the easy ones, I was getting it wrong. And I had no idea why I was wrong. So I was like, is it me who's making the mistakes? Is there a printing mistake in the book? I'm pretty sure that my answer is correct. Maybe the answer in the OG is wrong, probably. I was going with that. And then I realized that there's something that I'm lacking. Because there's nothing new in terms of the exam that tests you. Verbal and quant. You have, broadly 3 and 2 classifications, and which you kind of know everything. And then I realized, okay, there's some factor that I might be missing here and I need some help. And that is when I came across e-GMAT.
Okay.
e-GMAT was one that was a friend of mine recommended that to me. She used the course and she's an NCR right now.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'll probably go with that. And I made my own researches, saw the reviews in my club, and I was like, okay, this is where I'm gonna go. And I think that was in itself enough. It was everything that I got from the course. Yeah.
I've been talking to a lot of students lately, and I've trying to understand what influences someone's buying decision to get our course, right? I think I've seen 3 factors essentially that always stick out with everybody. One is they know someone who has used the course. And of course, that person promotes the course. They become like our ambassadors. 2, of course, GMAT Club reviews. people, swear by those. And I think 3, finally, it's more of a combination of the way the teaching pedagogy. It's not the same. We don't tell you to solve 1,000 questions, and we don't give tips and tricks. We don't do all of that stuff. For us, it's something that works and has worked. So now that let's get into things, and I'm going to stay quiet. I'm not going to talk about so much about the course. Let's hear you talk about the course and what worked for you.
When I started with e-GMAT, I felt that I needed more attention on verbal. So I thought that verbal was my Achilles heel, and I need to start with that. So I started off. I think the first thing that I started was master comprehension. I wanted to know how things were, and I think that made the difference in everything. The way in which you read, the pause points that you have, the break points, how you infer, and all stuffs. It was just a different approach to the knowledge that you already have. Is what I felt. So I started off with master comprehension, got to know a lot of stuffs from that, and then I moved to critical sentence correction is what I started off with. The thing that I found really helpful was, one, of course, the videos and the lessons are in itself comprehensive, and you don't need anything else than that. But then it had modules, and after every module you had a practice test, which helps you cement the knowledge of that learning that you have. So that helped me a lot. So I started off with sentence correction, and then the sub modules, subject verb agreement, verb tenses, pronouns. So as I got done with every module, I was able to just check the boxes off, and I was able to move forward. So I started, I think my verbal was around 27 or
26.
It was even 26. But then as I moved forward, I saw that I was able to get questions right. I was confident in my ability to solve these questions. Not only that, so once sentence correction was done, so we had this Scholaranium where you have this option to take a cementing quiz. So you can choose which module you wanted to be tested on, give your test on those questions. So those made the difference, I believe. The technology helped.
And then let's compare this feeling to the feeling when you were studying your OGs versus when you were studying this. Give me the comparative difference that you feel as a student that makes you.
The biggest thing that I got out of e-GMAT, preparing with e-GMAT, was my confidence. Because using OGs, even though I knew things, I wasn't very confident in myself. So there's always, when you come to 700 questions, there's always 2 or 3 options where you go back and forth with. And even though you get the right answer, you're not very sure as in why
you're getting the right answer.
That could have changed in other scenarios. Using e-GMAT, I think I wasn't just able to mark the right answer, but I was able to reject all the other answers that were wrong. So when I was done with the question, I moved on to the next question. This was out of my mind. So I never thought of that, because I knew that is going to be correct.
And I think that's a very good point too, because a lot of people, when they on the GMAT, when they're giving, they're answering questions, that feeling that, my last question was not right affects their scores on the questions ahead of them too. And it's a very psychological thing, and not a lot of people talk about it, but again, a very, very good point. Let's move to CR, right? The whole concept of CR was probably new to you. What did you take away from there?
When I used OGs and I was getting the answers right, when I was getting the answers wrong, it was just me. Beat, assumption, inference, evaluate. I had to think all that by myself. And I got the answers right by reading the answer choices. Like I read the answer choices. I related it back to the question, and I got the answer. Sometimes it was right, and most of the times it was wrong. And I realized that this needs to be changed. This approach is wrong. I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. And that is what e-GMAT taught me. It taught me about pre-thinking. I think that was completely new to me. Thinking the answer before even you read the answer choices. So yeah, that was a game changer for me. I think critical reasoning, out of 10 questions, I used to get 1 or 2 right. But as and when I started using the course and moving forward, I started getting I was getting pretty much everything right. When I started this though, since pre-thinking was very new to me, I took, and that is what something e-GMAT even suggested. Don't worry about the timings when you start this. Understand what it is, build the base, and then focus on timing. So when I started using this, pre-thinking since it was completely new to me, I took almost 3 or 4 minutes to solve even a simple question, because I used to map it out, understand what it is, premise, inferences, conclusion. I got the whole thing, and I got my pre-thinking right, and I got the right answer. And it took 4 minutes. And as and when I started practicing more and more, the time started to reduce. I think the last exam that I gave, critical reasoning, took no more than a minute, I guess.
Yeah, that's wow. That's actually pretty fast. Even I don't do that fast. So I think a lot of one thing that I do take away from what you said here is a lot of people try to focus on multiple things when they start learning something new, right? So they say stuff like, I want to increase my accuracy, I want to reduce my time, I want to solve XYZ number of questions. But in all of this, they forget, you're learning something new. How is it that you're going to learn something absolutely new and then, master all of these things side by side? So
exactly,
I think just taking that one step at a time is very, very important, especially with pre-thinking. We are also one of the students, Punith, who's seen Old Scholaranium as a platform and the new Scholaranium. Any differences, anything that, just hit you and you go like, wow, this is interesting?
Quite a few, I'd say. When I started using Scholaranium 1, I mean, that it's in itself was comprehensive. And then when I got this, that Scholaranium 2.0 is going to come, and I was like, why? You have everything already. Why do you have to, upgrade it? It's already so good. But then when the upgrade came out, I think it kind of spoon-fed you with all details that you wanted. Things that you didn't even realize that you needed in the first place. The luck factor was amazing. The timing factor was there, and all those things. So when I give a test, when I give a custom quiz for 15 questions, say, and then the first 2 or 3, I just, I'm not quite sure, and I just marked it. And then as and when I went forward with the questions, I'm pretty confident. And in the end, I saw the score, and I was like, okay, this is fine. But then Scholaranium 2.0 kind of reflected me back to the first 3 questions, and I was like, Punith, these 3 questions, are you sure that you got this right? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Let me just go back to that, and I was looking at those questions. So all those. When I believe that, when I believe it's when you want to score about 700 and plus, it's all those little details, even those matter. So e-GMAT was able to point that out to me and help me, get to where I am now.
Got it. And I didn't know this, before we started chatting, but you mentioned that, I'd written you this really, really long email about, essentially, I think the email was about where are you at right now? Where do you want to go? How is it that you do the course? Talk a little bit about how that email changed the way you do things.
The first attempt, I think I gave it on second week of Jan this year, 2021. And I was able to, I scored a 640. So when I started my preparations, I said to myself that, I'm going to give this once, because I believe I have what it takes to score high. So when I scored a 640, I couldn't make peace with it. I had multiple factors that was, playing into account at that time. COVID was happening, work was piling on. Even though I was giving the time and the effort for e-GMAT, I wasn't using strategy. I wasn't using the right strategy. That is something that you see quite often when you read blogs or when you listen to stories. Strategy is the word that is emphasized. And I took that for granted. I was like, I'll create my own strategy. Me being a strategy consultant, I thought that I can devise something effective and I
Yeah.
can get this done with. But then I was wrong, man. I was so wrong in that. So
I think,
then,
see, you're a strategy consultant in a certain practice, right? You can
yeah,
master
exactly.
plans for that practice. This is my practice. I know how to create plans for this one. So I think you have the idea right, and that's why we have strategy consultants who do just this. I mean, that's what we do,
Mm.
right? And I agree with you that strategy is so important. Coming to strategy, I think you're fairly good with Quant, but you had a few hitches along the way. Your scores were up and down a little bit with Quant. You did do our Quant course as well, and then the questions. What is it that you took away from the course? How did you improve your Quant over this period of time?
Quant, I was kind of confident in my ability to solve quants.
Yeah.
So I didn't give much importance to quant. I was more focused on the verbal part. I was worried about that. I was practicing on that. And then when I gave the test, I was, even though my quant score was less, I knew that I could get it done and when it needed to be done. But then again, I was wrong in that. So then I started using the quant courses. In quants, the things that I thought I was strong in, I realized that I wasn't as strong as I thought I was. I was able to solve the questions, but I wasn't able to get it under the right time. Like you needed at most 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the cap that you need to put on. e-GMAT, I kind of realized we had this TAKT timing.
Yeah.
So that helped me. And then when I was going through the concept files, I realized that it's not as much as finding the right answer. It's not about you solving it, but you figuring out what the answer is. Quantitative reasoning. There is a reason why it is, it's quantitative reasoning. So I realized that, and then that changed my approach. It's basically, it's all the approaches that it was a new approach that e-GMAT
and that's why we kind of focus on these process skills more than, listen, we'll show you how to give you a tip or trick to, solve a question in less than 2 minutes. I mean, that just doesn't work because it's not scalable. The GMAT changes questions basis how you kind of do on the test, and you're never going to see the same question again. So that approach doesn't work. Tips and tricks work for questions that are similar, right? They don't apply to questions that change with time. If you were to give, I would say, one piece of advice to a fellow GMAT taker, what would that be?
Emphasize on the strategy first is what I would say. Have an effective strategy. Take help when it's needed. Devise an effective strategy and just go with that, because that helps you save so much of time. I mean, I can look back at it and I can point out to the mistakes that I made, but while I was doing it, I was doing it to the best of my knowledge. And I realized that I had reached out, which is what I did. I reached out to you, and you gave such a big reply for the answer for the mail that because I was completely bummed out. 640 is what it was not my, it was not the score that I wanted. But then, hey, it helped me so much. I followed the strategy that you asked me to. And that changed everything. That I realized, okay, I was making a mistake and so areas. My strategy was different because I knew that I had a good conceptual knowledge. It's just the strategy and the way in which I'm implementing it changed, and that you helped me to sort it out. Thanks, DJ. Thanks for that.
No, I think I didn't realize the importance of the emails we send out. We call them strategy emails, and I think out of all of my time, I realize it more than anything today. Because at times, you have long conversations with people. There's multiple things that you tell them, and you feel that, okay, now you've really helped them. But what we don't realize is that even a single email can really change the way a student looks at his preparation or her preparation. And I'm really, really inspired to kind of write better strategy emails now. But once again, I think it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. And I think the important piece is that you would have gotten successful. It just probably took you longer. With the right strategy, it probably took you lesser time. I think that's
which I believe is the case with many people out there, right? Everybody has the ability to do it. It's just with the right strategy and the right mentors around you.
Absolutely.
You can get the things done.
That's what we promote, yeah. So no matter you're starting at a 400, we don't say that you'll never get to like a 700 plus score. That's a crazy thing to say. And a lot of people just say that, you have high scorers, you just make them successful. We really don't. We have scorers across the entire spectrum. And in fact, we have people who have about a 500 odd score, and we have a higher percentage of those people that we make successful. But once again, congratulations. I am so proud to have engaged with you that one time. And I'm very happy to see that you scored a 720. It's been a very good journey, interesting journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It means a